Whether you keep them in your home or love to see them in theirs, these are the creatures that bring us all together.
Reptiles. We're going to be delving into the experiences of reptile lovers from around the block and around the world. This is the Reptile Talk Podcast.
What's up, everybody? This is Jeremy Turgeon from Brassman Reptiles.
And I'm Robin. I'm keeping it real.
And dancing.
I love that intro music. I'm not gonna lie, man. Like, I don't care how many times we've recorded episodes, I still jam out. I'm like, doom, doom, doom,
Yeah.
doom, doom,
It's hard to not.
I like it.
It's hard to not.
It just fits so perfect.
It's true.
So tonight we got a pretty cool episode. It's gonna be maybe a little outside the box and something that not everyone really talks about when they talk about the reptile hobby or getting into things and breeding and social media and all that stuff. Like, people talk about promoting and business and blah 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 blah, but people don't usually talk about burnout and what happens when things can kind of get to be too much, because it's something that a lot of people deal with, especially when you get into the hobby and you're like, oh my God, I'm so enveloped in this thing. I just want to do this completely. I want to do everything and make it everything in my life. But a lot of times if you make, something that you're interested in everything in your life, you can get burned out on that thing, even if you love it a lot.
True. It is very true.
A lot of people don't really talk about that. So I figured that would be kind of a cool topic to talk about tonight.
A cool reptile talk.
A cool little reptile talk between two reptile guys.
That's pretty awesome.
Oh, Delilah.
What?
I don't know.
I don't know what's happening. Rob and I have both worked a very long day today.
Yeah, I definitely just did like almost 24 hours straight of working.
This is
and
true.
then did another 12-hour shift today or something like that. And then I have to work tonight. And then
So Rob is currently Rob Zombie.
yeah, I'm gonna get sued for that one.
Oh my gosh.
Regardless.
Yeah, it is.
Talk about
it is
burnout
what it is.
tonight?
We're
Is that
talking
what
about
we're
burnout. Yeah, we're talking about being burnt out. Being burnt out. What is being burnt out? Are we going to define this term? Because it goes a little bit beyond like just being tired for a day.
Yeah, it definitely does, because especially the context that I've seen most people talk about it nowadays, as far as like burnout in the reptile hobby, is social media, and they get super burnt out on being in Facebook groups and seeing people who claim to be reptile experts, and they've got 2 reptiles and they've just got into the hobby 4 years ago, and they just for people who have been doing it a long time, or people who are super specialized, it gets to be frustrating. And
for sure
it's easy to get burnt out on trying to help people and either not having them listen to you, or taking wrong advice, or purposefully not taking the advice of people who work with the animal because they don't like it. And it's like, well, these people have worked with this animal sometimes for a really long time, and just because you don't like their advice doesn't mean that it's not the right thing. The first thing that comes to mind for me is like the blood and short tail groups, because it's like a couple times a week someone comes in there and they're like, I want to do a bioactive enclosure for my blood python, and like everyone's like, no. And there's like the 2 people who have joined last week and they're like, yeah, you should do it, I did it last week and it's been going great. And it's like everyone else is like, their urine is gonna burn your soil and ruin all of your microfauna,
all of your isopods.
I hope they like really acidic urine.
My
like
mind's telling me no. But my body's telling me yeah.
This has already got off the rails. But a lot of the people who keep short tails are like, look, they're gonna dig up your plants, they're gonna piss all over your cage, you're gonna have to feed your microfauna because they're not eating the regular poop that you get from like a gecko, and the blood python's gonna poop like once every 3 or 4 months, and it's going to be a giant log in there that it's gonna take them a year to eat. So it's just there's other animals that work great for bioactive enclosures. Bloods and short tails aren't one of them. And then those people get butthurt and they're like, I'm gonna do it anyway, and then it works well for a week or 2 weeks or whatever, and then eventually they're like, oh yeah, it didn't work out. And it's good. Like, we tried to tell you, but I mean, you don't have to learn from all the people who have made the mistakes before you. You can make all those mistakes yourself. It's just,
I'm sorry,
why would you want to do that?
Bioactive mistakes are only happening within the last couple of years.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Just a heads up.
Clearly.
Yeah. Just a heads up.
But like you know, the feeling of being burnt out on social media is something that I see a lot of people. They're like, I'm just so sick of like, you know, trying to help people and then have them think that you're stupid, even though you've been working with animals for a long time, or, you know, purposely ignoring your advice, or, you know, saying that just because you're not the same type of person that they are, like maybe you're an older guy in the hobby, that you don't have anything valuable to input. And it's like, well, sometimes people do have valuable input. And, you know, when you've tried to help people, it can definitely get frustrating to constantly just have it, you know, watch these people making mistakes and not taking advice. And then, you know, it's at the detriment of the animals a lot of the time. And, you know, you can only want to reach out so many times. I mean, that's what took me out of a lot of groups that I was in and posting in those groups, because I was just like, you know, every time that you help someone, there's still another 5 people there who are making the same mistake and not learning from the one person they're seeing in the group already making the mistake. So it just got super frustrating for me to like constantly be helping people and then still more people just not learning while they're watching. And it's like, if you pay attention, there's lots of things you can do. It's like the people who join a group and the first thing that they do is go, okay, who's got this snake that this group is about? And everyone's like, if you like watched for a day, you'd see all the people who've got those, particular snakes. You wouldn't even have to ask. You wouldn't even have to. True. Because the people who are going to answer you are probably going to be the people who have got like 2 and they're like, yeah, I'm gung ho about this. And the people who are breeding them and have an entire room of them, they're just like, they'll see it when I post.
No, that is very true. Yeah, I think the social media burnout is certainly one that is becoming more and more prevalent as time goes on. And usually, I mean, I tell people when it comes to a lot of different things, when it comes to burnout, especially being burnt out over seeing this large amount of negativity or whatever the case may be, what you give your attention to, you energize.
Yeah.
You know, so sometimes it's, you know, not to say like don't help people or like don't jump in somewhere and offer your advice, but you know, when you see it clearly not worth your time, or you see it's already, you know, a post has already been inundated with all this false information and all these people just like jumping at each other's throats about whatever, sometimes it's not worth jumping into. You know, send that person a direct message. Or whatever. And save yourself the headache, because more often than not, it's just not worth it. You know, so I think that's definitely one of the important things to realize, is just like, if you don't want to get involved, don't feel obligated to get involved. Because one of those things that, at least for social media, for some of the things that I've seen, is like the people who get burnt out are the people that they consistently are posting in the groups or commenting in the groups and whatever, or they're trying to just be active and they're like always on that group trying to check things out or whatever. And they're just like, man, everything I see is like an argument, or everything I see is this, or everything I see is that. And like, there's very limited positive context, you know. And I get that 100%. If I start feeling like shrouded in negativity, I do whatever the hell I can to get the hell out.
Take a step back.
Yeah, you have to, because it's not worth it.
It's not worth it.
It's not.
And it's like the reason why we all came to reptiles and keeping and posting in those groups is because we love them and they make us excited. And we, you know, when you look at that snake or that lizard or that frog or that tarantula or that newt or whatever, it's like, yeah, I love this thing. I'm super into this thing. And it's such a bummer that, like, you know, just seeing all the negativity that people can have surrounding, oh, well, you keep it with a plant that faces west and I only keep it with plants that face east. And it's like, that doesn't matter, dude. It really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Trust me. In the grand scheme of things, it does not matter. If you see someone really doing something to the detriment of their animal, reach out. Hey, maybe, you know, you don't want to do it like that. But there are so many different ways to keep reptiles, and the way that I keep stuff in New Hampshire might be very different for the way that someone keeps things in Florida, which is very different for the way that someone keeps things in New Mexico, which is very different than the way that people can keep things in Oregon. So there's so many different ways, and there's so many different factors that play into it. And it's like, you know, someone in New Mexico might have to spray down their enclosure every single day, like heavily spray it down just to keep the humidity somewhere relevant.
Yeah.
Whereas like someone in Florida, you do that and the thing is just like this wet moss ball inside the cage. And you're like, why would you? I followed the guy who said to spray it down every day. And it's like, well, you got to take things into account that things are not always the same. They're very different. And there's so much behind it. There's so many different variables that go into, the way that someone might keep something. It's it gets to be discouraging. One of the things that one of the things that I used to really enjoy was like tarantula groups, even though so in reptiles, if you have a particular species, there's usually like a lot of variation of how those species look. Like most species, not all of them, but like green anacondas, they all kind of look the same. You get a little bit lighter one, a little darker one, but most of them look very similar. It's very hard to even distinguish them between each other.
Right.
But ball pythons, blood pythons, carpet pythons, every single one of them is different. It's very hard to find two that look like very similar in the same way. So the tarantula groups, every single individual in a species looks identical. The Salmopoeus armenia that I have looks identical to the one that guy has, and 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 this one, and this girl has, and that person has.
Can you say that species one more time?
Salmopoeus armenia, the Venezuelan sun tiger. Look them up. They're really cool. They're like the Halloween tarantula. They're black and orange. They're awesome. They got little Nike swooshes on their legs.
I'm just happy there was a common name.
There is. I hate common names, but it has a common name. But in those groups, all they do is argue about how people keep things. Like that is all they do, because all the animals look the same. So when you don't have any I like the way that this one's pattern looks a little bit different right here. When you don't have that, all they do is argue about how people keep things. And I've been keeping tarantulas pretty much my whole life, and I've raised a lot of different species of tarantulas, and I enjoy keeping a variety of different species of tarantulas. And I've kept things in ways that are unconventional. And people got butt hurt, like real butt hurt. Like I used, for a while, I was using substrate that was Eco Earth mixed with potting soil and cypress mulch, and people lost their minds. Oh my God, cypress mulch for a tarantula! It's the devil. They should take away your spiders. And I'm like, guys, I get that you all have your little. This is how you keep a tarantula starter pack, but there are more ways to do it. And then also, I've been keeping tarantulas since the 90s. And I've had a really good success raising stuff on the stuff that I do. And sometimes I like to experiment and see what ways work better. Like I just got this soil that I really, really like, and I'm not using anything else past this now. It's from this organic
Is it Reptile
farm.
Prime?
No, it's
Brian
not.
Barczyk?
No, it's not. Unfortunately.
Sorry, Brian. I tried to hook you up.
Man. It's from an organic farm in Maine, and it's soil that's like it's topsoil mixed with ground up lobster shells, so they don't waste the lobster. Like what most people throw away the shells.
Yeah,
so this place,
I got that part.
They compost the shells and crush them up fine, so that they compost with the soil and perlite, and what else is in there, and peat moss and like a couple other things. But it is like rich and keeps humidity amazing, and I just started using this like a year and a half ago, and I'm like, I will never use another substrate again. This is the coolest thing. But it's not Eco Earth that people bought in a little brick at the pet store, so they're like, substrate. But literally, people in those groups are like crazy, and it's like I got so burnt out on posting in the arachnid groups, because I was just like, these people don't they all read the same care sheet, and they're all doing their thing. And I just like the spiders because I like the spiders. And if they don't like how I keep stuff, then don't keep it like me. I don't know what to tell you. All my spiders do great. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
I think that's one of the biggest things is like a lot of times people are just looking for something to argue about, or they don't have as much experience, so they're literally just basing it off of those few care sheets, or maybe they read a couple pages of a book, and that's all they're basing it off of. And they have yet to understand that there's more than one way to do things. So the burnout is real. And then sometimes on a not so social media based burnout, there's the life.
I was just gonna say the life burnout is real, bro.
So between like working a lot and then having to maintain your animals,
and maintain yourself,
your
friendships, and a good sleep cycle. And
it's really easy to get overwhelmed and everything like that. So I mean,
And-
I'll put it this way. If you're gonna have like a small collection of reptiles, like you can generally pretty much maintain and kind of keep the status quo. Every once in a while, you're like, oh man, like I'm
I
just
got really
too tired,
behind.
or
Yeah.
whatever. And like I know personally, I'll have those days where I've broken up taking care of my room into 2 days.
Mhm.
Where it's like, oh my god, it doesn't seem quite as overwhelming when I go from 170 something snakes to take care of to like 60 or 80 or whatever,
Yeah.
and then I come back and do the other 60 or 80 or whatever.
Yeah.
Whoops. So doing kind of things like that kind of help to make it a little less intense or overwhelming. But if you have a larger collection, it's
Things can get out of hand really quickly.
really,
Yeah.
really quickly.
You
A
figure-
day or two away could spell disaster for something. A water bowl evaporates and something goes without water. That
Or
really
they knock
is.
it over and you just like you missed it on that round. You're going through and doing
Yep.
things in a row, and you just missed that one by accident, and then all of a sudden it's been a week and a half without water, and it's like, oh my goodness, like that's the stuff that can really happen when you're tired, because
Mhm.
something's got to give someplace or another. It's either going to be
Right.
your friendships with people, your family, your work schedule, your sleep schedule, or the care on the animals. And it's like it's very tough to balance all of those things, especially if something pops up. Oh, you got an extra work project that's super stressful or takes more of your time, or maybe it takes time out of your regular work day. It takes time from your personal life. And then maintaining your it's been tougher with COVID because people are not as able to go out and do social things, but still maintaining your social bonds with your friends or with the people in the community and doing stuff like that. Cutting into that time can be stressful for a lot of people because humans are social animals by definition. Like I get that a lot of people are introverted and they've got their core group, but you still have that core group.
Yeah, exactly.
You still need a couple people at least in your life to kind of keep things together.
Keep you sane.
Yeah, to keep you sane. I got Jeremy here.
And I got Rob.
It's good. But things will start to slip in one area or the other, and you don't want it to be on the area of the animals because it's not really fair to them because they're relying on you. So when it comes to that's like just life burnout, it's something that you constantly have to be watching. If you've got like one or two animals, it's usually not that hard to stay on top of it. And even if you get an extra work project or whatever, or your friends want to go out on a day that you're usually doing animal stuff, it's not that big a deal. You can usually put it off a day and it's it's easy to catch up. If you've got, I'll say, more than 30 animals or more than 20 animals, an extra day can really throw a huge wrench into your whole system of how you do things, especially the higher numbers that you get, the more. And if you breed your own rodents or your own feeders, that too as well can really, rodents especially, like they go a half a day without water and that the mice are just gonna start eating their babies because they're like, oh, look at this little Capri Sun, and you're like, that's a baby, you monster. What are you doing? You are 2 hours without water. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, mice are fun.
They're brutal.
But I mean, the nice difference between the social media burnout and the life burnout is, at least with the social media burnout, you can take a break. You can step away from social media and kind of purge yourself of all of that insanity. The life burnout is one of those things where like you have to do something to make it work. Be it exactly like what Rob was saying. Your personal relationships, going to hang out with your friends, family, or whatever. Sometimes those take a little bit of a hit, and I mean, first of all, things happen.
Yep.
Right. But it is important to realize, like, hey, you know what? Maybe I need to either cut back on some animals if like it seems to be a consistent issue where it's like things might go great for like a month and then like without fail something comes up and you're thrown off and then the animals are suffering. And if that's a recurring thing, maybe you need to, lighten that load a little bit. Or if you're trying to build a business working with animals while still working a job while doing a bunch of other things, that certainly is stressful. And that's one of those things where like the burnout happens for sure. I've dealt with that many times, but you have to figure out then kind of creative ways to allow that balance to kind of happen. So sometimes that means you get a little bit less sleep, and depending on your job, your current job, that might be great or not so great. Other times, you might just have to look at, okay, well, what can I do in my reptile room or whatever to make things go a little faster? Are there ways that I can streamline these things so I, instead of being down here for 5 hours, I'm down here for 3.5, and I can get a couple extra hours of sleep, so I'm good for my job in the morning. And sometimes that's literally as simple as like organization.
It is amazing what you can get accomplished if you have a system.
Yeah.
Or if you've got a system, finding something to speed up that system,
Mhm.
and just finding a little ways to cut corners here and there. Not cutting corners in the care aspect, but
Right.
like when I'm doing baby reticulated pythons, what I usually do is we've got a big rack, and I got it off to my right side. It's right next to the sink, which I use for scrubbing the dishes and scrubbing the tubs and cleaning them out and everything. I'll put a cart behind me that's got the paper and the trash can on the other side. So I pull down the baby, put it in the holding bin that's right off to my right. On the left, empty out the bin. Water dish goes in the sink while I'm cleaning down the actual tub itself. Put paper from behind me into the tub, right into the rack, clean the water dish. Water dish goes back in. Takes me all of a minute and a half. And
Yep.
just being able to not have to walk from here to the trash can to throw things out, to the sink to wash everything down, just saving those little seconds here and there
Yep.
really adds up in the amount of time that it takes you to do the rack. And
Yeah.
if you've got a room in your, like a reptile room, having a sink in there is incredible and amazing and a
Mhm.
blessing. And if you can do it, you should do it, because
Yeah.
it'll save you so much time. Not everyone is able to do that. One of the things that I used to do when I had a reptile room that didn't have a sink in it, or when I was, living with my parents, is I would get a Home Depot bucket, so that I
Yes.
could, as I'm going through, I pull all the water dishes and empty them out into the Home Depot bucket, and then clean everybody, set everybody back up. And then before I put the water dishes back in, I go clean them all, from
Mhm.
empty the bucket, clean all the water dishes, and then I will bring a gallon jug or a couple gallon jugs into my room of water, and then I'll just fill up the water dishes as I go, and boom, 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 all in a row. Save you so much time, as opposed to cleaning this tub, taking the water dish, cleaning it in the other room, filling it up, walking back. That'll take you 3 times as much time as doing it all at the end and then just putting everybody back on water dishes.
Yeah.
It
No,
just,
100%, 100%. And I mean, another thing too, like I'm looking through the comments that are coming through, because of course, if you're just listening to the audio on this and you haven't figured out, you can check us out on the YouTubes. You can head over to my YouTube channel at Brassman Reptiles, and there's a whole playlist called the Reptile Talk playlist. And you can check out a bunch of these episodes here and catch us live. I didn't make a post about doing this one live because we were waiting on confirmation from potential guests that didn't come through.
butt scratch.
It's okay.
That's okay.
So anyway, having a large, something as simple as like a larger trash can. That was one of the things that I'm seeing right there from Nathaniel. That's huge. This way you're not going out every 10 cages to empty the trash or get a new trash bag, whatever. Spend the $30 on a massive trash can, and imagine what possibilities could arise from having a larger trash can. But the Home Depot bucket is definitely a great thing, especially if you don't have a sink in there. And one of the other things you can do too, especially because
Thaw your rodents in there?
you
That's
could
what I
do
used
that.
to do.
You
I
could
used
do
to
that
fill it
too.
up with rodents and thaw it out in the Home
100%.
Depot bucket.
But if you're close enough, if your reptile room is close enough to like the kitchen or your bathroom or whatever, and you can attach a hose to the sink, you just get like a little Y split, so
yeah.
you can control water for the sink, but you can also have a hose going. This way, not only can you dump out the water bowl, but if you're like, okay, this water bowl is going right back in with this snake, you can spray it out right there. Maybe it's got some bedding in it or whatever. You can spray it out right there and put it back. Or if you're going through and you're like, you just are like, man, I got to go through and give waters to everything. Well, I mean, of course, you can just grab a water bowl and walk back and forth, or grab a couple water bowls and walk back and forth. But imagine having a hose
Yep.
that you could just.
One of the things that I like to do as well is set up a container with bleach water
Mm-hmm.
and with a rag, so that while I'm going, if I do need to wipe a bowl out real quick to refill it, I've got it right there, as opposed
Yes.
to walking to the other side of the room to do it. And just saving those couple little extra seconds is huge.
Yeah.
And one of the things that people don't really talk about is finding your number. The number of animals that you can care for adequately.
I was like, you just go into contacts on your phone, and then
No.
usually at the very top or the very bottom, it says my number.
Yeah, those people who are like, I don't even know my phone number. I've never had to call myself, so I don't know. And it's like, come on, guy, come on now. But
disgraceful.
finding the number of animals that you can adequately work with is different for every single person. Like, I am a high productive kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I like, when I was in Maine, I was managing basically, a reptile store almost by myself. Like, Jason would help out maybe a couple nights a week.
Yeah.
And then, I had like maybe one person or two other people help me every now and again, but it was mostly on me. And so I was taking care of like 200, 300 snakes or something like that. And like that, for me, that's not a crazy unreasonable amount. But for someone who's worked with 20 snakes or has 10 snakes or whatever, trying to do
hundreds,
100 or 200 is going to be like, that's going to blow my mind. And I just trying to figure out a system where that works all the time, or you're not missing anything, or whatever. It's tough for that person, but you have to be able to acknowledge, like, when you hit that number, it's like, okay, I shouldn't buy any more animals. I'm slipping here, I'm slipping there. And trying to stay within your boundaries of what you can deal with. Because like, even when I started at Nerd, when I did the downstairs, I took care of like the exoteric room.
Yeah.
And like, that was like my dojo, and there's like probably 150 animals in there.
Yeah.
Maybe right around there.
Yeah.
Because I think those racks hold like 100 and something. And then there's extras all around.
Yes. Yeah.
So it was like 150 animals, but like, that was my, I was like, boom, in the zone right there, because like, that is very within my comfortable realm. So like, everything's getting fed every week and blah, blah, blah. But someone who's maybe has not worked with that scale of animals, it might be tough for them, because the way that they're used to cleaning things is going to be different than the way that I go through and clean things. And the way that I manage time going through those and feeding them is going to be different than the way that they go through and feed them.
Yeah.
And
I think that's definitely one of the important things to talk about too, is, it's really easy to get burnt out when you don't know that number, and you just have a huge collection of animals that you've built up. But it's also important to realize, like, it's very different. Like, I don't really think I know anybody that has gone from the hobbyist keeper to a larger scale, say with like 100 animals or more, hobby breeder, that hasn't changed up a system to make their, like, I don't think anybody's been like, I take all of this time with every animal and every dish and the bedding, and I always fluff the bedding and
put the plants in this corner.
Like that. You there are some things that you have to realize, like, okay, if I actually want to see the light of day before the seasons change, I guess I need to kind of do something about that. And I mean, when you're keeping snakes in rack systems, it's a little bit different than if you're keeping and breeding snakes in cages, to an extent. I mean, I know there are certainly some people who keep like carpet pythons and stuff in cages that can whip through many enclosures very quickly, and that's just because that's what they're used to. For the longest, probably most of my time keeping reptiles, I've kept a lot of stuff in racks. So going through cleaning racks has always been kind of the go-to thing for me. So I can bust through racks like nobody's business. But yeah, so finding that number is super, super important. And again, being creative, trying to figure out these ways to save yourself that, think about it, if it saves you 10 seconds on one thing, and you've got 100 animals, that's 1,000 seconds. How many minutes is 1,000 seconds, Rob?
Oh boy, put me on the spot right now.
It's a lot of minutes.
Yeah, it's something like what? Oh, I can't even think right now.
It's okay.
But I've not slept enough to do this math right now.
Yeah. I mean, it saves you time. The
Several
whole
minutes.
the whole thing is it saves you time, and that at the end of the day, that is what will help prevent your burnout.
Yeah.
And it's not to say, of course, again, life happens. Random things will pop up, and you may have to get pulled away from what you're doing. And if it gets you behind, you're like, oh man, somebody else had said something in the comments that a lot of times when they're doing stuff in their animal room, they've got like their kids or their spouse or whatever, like family time is kind of working in the reptile room. And if you have that, that's awesome. Because hell yeah, extra hands definitely makes things go faster. Or if you've got a buddy that's like super interested in reptiles and he's like, man, like I want to come learn more. And you're like, yeah, dude, for sure. But then like trying to find time to have that person come by just so you can look at snakes isn't always the easiest thing. But I'll be like, hey, dude, you want to come give me a hand cleaning these things, and I'll teach you some stuff along the way, like, because then it's also it's one other thing that you're doing, right? But it's also allowing you to go a little bit faster. So while the first couple times, if they come over multiple times, you might have to show them, okay, well, this is what I do. This is how we do the waters. This is what we do for this. This is what we do for that. But once they've gotten enough of that under their belt to just be like, okay, cool. All right, I can clean this. I can do that. Now you've got somebody that, God forbid you do fall behind for whatever reason.
Or something.
Exactly. You've got somebody you can hit up and be like, hey, man, like maybe I'll throw you a little money, or, if you're interested in that snake still, come by and help me out, and, we can figure something out. And that's huge. That really is huge. And again, it's just another way to help work towards preventing that burnout, where you're just like, man, I don't even want to go into my reptile room or whatever, because like I'm just exhausted and I'm going to look at all those enclosures and immediately be overwhelmed. Yeah. That is the burnout.
Yeah. and it's sad because you'll see that'll happen to people sometimes, and it just like really gets away from them. And and if they had reached out, or if they had someone who was able to help them, things could have gone a little bit differently. But that it just stacks up real fast if you let it get away from you.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Stephen F said 1,000 seconds is 16.6 minutes. So a quarter of an hour.
A quarter of a Reptile Talk episode.
That's right.
Except for Garrett Hartle's episode.
And maybe a couple of others.
And a couple of
But yeah, especially Garrett Hart. Garrett Hartle's episode went about 16.6% over.
Listen here.
I love you, Garrett. Dude, okay, wait, really quick Garrett story. So Dan and I, one of the times that Dan and I went to go get paper down in the Boston area, this was after they came to visit.
Yeah.
I found there was one of those little Zoom Ed telescoping snake hooks in Kevin's van. So I extended it and took a picture of it and sent it to Garrett and was like, I think you left something at Nerd.
Your super dwarf hook.
And your super dwarf hook. He sent me a picture back of a paper clip that had been unwrapped and then bent with a hook. And he was like, nah, bro, this is my hook right here.
Oh my God, that's great.
I was so happy by that response.
That is amazing. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I'll have to show you the picture, Rob.
Please.
It was really good. I was like, I'm glad he can take a joke. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of want to make one of those hooks for myself.
Now I gotta find something that's smaller than a paperclip to make an even smaller one. Just see what's the smallest hook that I can make to send.
This is the hook I use for my baby corn snakes.
Now I need to get a snake from him and then take a picture with like a bent paperclip little hook. And
yeah, dude, 100%.
Garrett sent me a free hook.
You don't even need a super dwarf, dude. Just go play with a house snake.
Yes,
because he's got all his house snakes, and you're like, I think I could. You take a picture of yourself using it on a house snake, and then be like, think this would be okay for the super dwarf.
Oh my God, that's too funny. That's too funny. But the going back to the topic at hand.
Yes, sorry.
The one of the things that can definitely help you with not feeling burnout or not feeling as burned out is. We did an episode on finding community and finding ways that you can connect with people who are into the things that you're into, because, sometimes I find myself just being like, oh yeah. Like, so I just feel like I'm behind on stuff, and I want to, I don't feel like we're posting this group and blah blah blah. And then I, talk to somebody like Keith, and I'm like, yeah, let's
You get all energized,
energized and feel it again. And then
Yep.
going to expos when expos can happen again, and
Yeah.
talking to people who are into the same species, or like bouncing an idea off someone. Like, I sent people a picture of like these 2 snakes that I produced last year that are unrelated, and I'm like, I think these would be like a cool pair. What do you think? And they're like, oh my God, like the tones in this thing right here that link up with the tones. And I was like, you see it.
You see it. Right.
You
Exactly.
see it.
Yes.
And it's just like, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I'm, on the right track. I'm doing the right thing. And that just those little hits of, dopamine, it's just going to get you going and get you feeling good. And
100%.
it can definitely help kick you back on the right track, because, everyone feels off some days, everyone has tougher months than other ones. And, if you can find ways to connect with people who are on that same, your vibe attracts your tribe. Find someone who's got that same vibe. It's true, man. What?
That was a wonderful
like it?
Little rhyme right there.
Oh, you never heard that before?
No, I've actually never heard that
before.
Okay.
Yeah. That's like a big thing there. Your vibe attracts your tribe. And those are your tribe. That's your people.
That's that might be the hashtag.
I'm with it.
Yeah.
But find your vibe, find your tribe, find those people who are it for you. If you're in the comment section right now on the Reptile Talk live stream, hey. You guys are part of our tribe.
That's it. And we appreciate it.
We appreciate it a lot. And if you're listening to this, you're into reptiles. I'm assuming you didn't find us because you're on a pottery podcast and we're like, hey, Reptile Talk. I wonder what kind of pottery they have.
Yeah, no.
But there are so many great resources for people to meet and discover things that they might be interested in, and finding the people who are your vibe, your people who you're into.
Yeah.
One of the things that I like on Instagram is that it lets you follow hashtags. So like one of the hashtags that I follow is like Cerdidactylus, because it's this weird type of bowfinger gecko from Malaysia and Thailand, and they're like super weird and obscure, and I love them like so much. But I've found some pretty cool pages, some pretty cool accounts that I follow now because of following that hashtag, because I was like, oh man, they've got those. That means that they get it. They get that thing that I'm into. And some of the other things, a lot of people follow like general hashtags like Reptile Keeper or reptiles. And that is, an overarching umbrella.
Yeah. That's a good way to find a lot of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I tend to go for more of like the niche things where I'm like, oh, you get the head nod. You get the, hey, I see you.
One of those.
Yeah, one of those. But I mean, even just following, Reptile Keeper or reptiles or snake or whatever, you can definitely find, people who are also into the same thing that you're into. You might find some stuff that you maybe weren't looking for, but you also might find some stuff that you were. And being open to those new experiences is huge.
That's why I can't look at any of those things, because I'll be like, I want those now. And I will do it.
I know. We were talking about the Trans-Pecos rat snakes last year, and I'm like, I need to wait. I need to be patient.
Yeah.
I really want to get some blonde silvers, some of these Xanthic blondes, but I'm just waiting. I'm taking my time. But I've been following Trans-Pecos rat snake hashtag on Instagram for the last year, so I'm just like,
so hard, Rob.
I see the Xanthic blondes, and I'm like, ooh,
yeah,
ooh.
My thing is always like, especially because like I think the Trans-Pecos things that is a species I would just keep because I think they look really cool. I know at some point I would probably want to try breeding them at least once. So every time I see them pop up, and I'm like, oh, if I don't get them now, it's gonna take that much longer to get them up to breeding size.
True. See,
It's a bad way to think.
I've been staying off of Morph Market and off of King Snake and off of Fauna Classifieds, just trying not to spend any money. I'm paying down my one project, actually 2 projects right now, but
yeah. So that means everybody here in the live stream can send Rob links to
Trans-Pecos rat snakes. Yeah. Great, awesome.
It's at Rob is Creeping It Real
on Instagram.
And just DM him. I can't guarantee he will read it, but
I always read all my DMs. It bothers me when I get an unread one. It bothers me, man.
It does me too. I
even
usually
if I don't respond.
I can usually go for about a day or two seeing a notification, and then after that I'm like, go.
Yeah. You know what my Instagram account does? If it's not on that first opening page, it doesn't show it as a notification anymore. And so I've had people who message me and they got like buried underneath a bunch of messages. And they message me again and they're like, hey, just want to check it. And I was like, I didn't even see your first message. Like it literally, and then it doesn't have the little notification at the top that I have a new message. So I was like, oh crap, my bad. That's Instagram. To put it into perspective, I wake up every morning, I've got like between 10 and 20 new messages in my inbox. And I'm like,
I don't have that problem. And I'm not jealous.
I do.
Yeah, I have between like 5 and 10.
Yeah,
on average, and I'm okay with that. And I hope it never gets between 10 and 20, or anything greater than that.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Unless it's people buying things from my Morph Market,
dude. I need to put a thing on my Morph Market. It's like just message me on Instagram because I don't check my Morph Market enough. I literally have to go on there and change everything because I only have one Borneo left for sale, and I think I've got like 3 or 4 that are on my Morph Market right now. Whoops. That's one thing where I'm burned out is trying to sell snakes. That's not why I got into snakes, was to sell them. I just really like them. So doing like all the back and forth messaging people on Morph Market or on Fauna and trying to coordinate all that stuff, man, that just like
it is a lot.
That burns me out.
I've only, well, I'll say since starting my brass band stuff, I've only ever posted stuff on Morph Market, just because, first of all, I usually never have anything that I think would capture people's attention on Fauna, because I know Fauna has a lot of like the obscure people that go listen or look for that, but also just like trying to maintain that many different
platforms,
avenues and platforms. I'm like,
yeah, it stresses me out.
Yeah, I'm not about it.
Yeah, I miss when you could sell things on Facebook.
Yeah, legit. I remember literally before like every White Plains show, I would just make a massive post. I wouldn't put prices. I would just put a massive post listing everything I was going to take to the show.
Yeah.
And I would just be like, if you're interested in anything, DM me. You know, if you want to put a payment on it now, whatever, and then pay the rest off at the show or whatever. And I used to sell the crap out of stuff by doing that. Yeah, I don't get to do that anymore.
No.
But that's also mostly because expos aren't happening.
Yeah. I'm very bummed about that. Yeah, one tear streamed down Jeremy's face.
Yeah.
And fell from his cheek.
Yep.
Into his lap.
And stained my pants.
I ripped my pants.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But dude, trying to maintain all the different platforms where people sell things, you know, between Fauna. I don't use King Snake because they charge you a bunch to use it. I mean, I had a King Snake profile at one point when I was selling a bunch of stuff, but it was tough. If you were just like a regular person, you know, it wasn't. I feel like it wasn't worth it. I used to sell a lot through Fauna Classifieds.
Fauna was my jam back in the day.
I liked Fauna, and then Morph Market is newer to me, so I'm still trying to figure out everything on Morph Market. But I do generally like that platform. Yeah, it's decent. I mean, they still have got a lot of places that they can improve, like even in the short tail sections. They don't have all the short tail morphs in there at all. But
I definitely do like the Morph Market platform more than any of the others. Which has been nice. And it certainly has become like the standard.
Yeah, now people don't even know what Fauna or King Snake are. They're like, if it's not on Morph Market, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, and you're like,
not true,
not
but
quite.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, Limey, we got our good buddy Limey here in the chat, and Limey says that people just hit him up. He doesn't advertise. Well, it must be nice to be you, sir.
I actually I advertised a couple of Borneos on my Instagram, and I sold 2 of them on there. Yeah, and I've only got 1 snake left from my 2020 stuff that I'm selling, I think. Because one of the ones that I sold today was one that I wasn't really planning on selling, but the person's like a pretty good friend, and they were like, I really want to get a short tail, and I want to get it from you. And I was like, I wasn't gonna sell this thing, but I'll sell it to you, I guess.
Yeah.
So I got one,
Yeah.
one like kind of more normal male left from 2020, and then everything else is spoken for because I kept so much.
How many holdbacks, Rob?
Enough, almost enough. Actually, I think it's enough. Dude, I'm looking at stuff that I'm gonna be pairing, and I'm just like getting all excited. I'm like, oh my goodness, the next couple of years are gonna be really exciting. I hope that this year I'll make 1 or 2 clutches. I'm not going crazy with it. I would like a clutch, that'd be cool. But
How many holdbacks?
that one will be all holdbacks. Actually, the marble clutch is the thing that I really want to go this year. And like people have been hounding me about getting freaking marbles, so I'm like, yes, trust me, I would like to make some marbles so I can sell you some marbles. But I actually just paired them up, and I've been pairing them up for the last like couple of months, and they've been locking up. And then I paired them up this time, and they did nothing. And they sat on opposite sides of the enclosure. I'm like, that's a good sign. And then the female's looking like huge, and then she took a poop, and she still looks huge. And I'm like, oh, if a short tail poops, and it still looks huge.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
Definitely a good thing.
Maybe we'll have some marbles this year. That'd be cool because last year was her first year, and she only did 16 eggs, and then 3 went bad. So we only got 13 hatchlings. It was a split clutch with Dan Magano. So I only ended up with like 5, 6 babies, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I kept them almost.
Yeah. I might have that one Borneo clutch from the White Wall Ocelot to the Super Stripe het. And I'm like, how many of these will be holdbacks?
All of them.
Very likely.
We'll be trading some stuff, Jeremy.
Yeah. That doesn't necessarily help.
Yes, it does. What are you talking about?
No, because if I'm swapping snakes
they're still moving. They're still moving out of your room.
Yeah, but then those tubs are just being reutilized. They're not actually empty. I don't get to flip them upside down. That's usually my thing when I've emptied out a drawer and I'm really like, I don't expect any more hatchlings or anything. I flip it upside down and slide it back in the rack, and that's my I'm done. That's the I'm done look. And I'm very far from that. I do not have anything flipped upside down right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rob.
Wait, you said you got a couple more snakes coming in tomorrow?
Yeah. Shut up, Rob.
I'm trying not to buy anything right now.
I don't know what that's like. I'm very bad at this.
I've been pretty decent about it.
Yeah, I'm very bad at this. And then we got that pair from VPI.
I can't wait. It's probably going to be another couple weeks before they're comfortable shipping them to us.
That's fine. I'm okay with that. But also, it's like, that's just another snake.
Dude, I'm actually really excited.
I am actually really excited too. Yeah,
because I'm looking at when when the secret males are ready to breed.
Yes,
I'll have those 2 black girls to breed to it. Yes.
Oh,
it's gonna be good, and all gonna be holdbacks.
Rob is gonna be buried
in Borneos.
In Borneos.
Man, that sounds like an awesome album title. Buried in Borneos.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody would get the context.
No,
unless they're a reptile person.
I don't care.
You're gonna want to care if you're gonna try to sell that record.
Jeremy.
If you're gonna sell that record, people got to know what the hell you're talking about.
There's this really cool band called Annotations of an Autopsy, and they have a song called "In Snakes I Bathe."
That is pretty epic.
It's awesome. If you like death metal and doom and stuff, you should listen to it. I don't know if I'd call it doom, but it's definitely death metal.
I dig it. I do dig it.
So I'm trying to think of what other aspects could you feel burned out in the hobby? I mean, the social media aspect is like the biggest one, and you can always just step away from your Facebook groups. For me, it's a lot tougher for me to get away from that burnout on the social media stuff because it's kind of part of my job, and posting on the nerd account and sharing stuff that we're working with and producing is
I think that might actually be the other aspect of it is if you're doing things as a business,
you have to do it.
you have to do it, and not just the social media thing, but most people that are breeding reptiles on any kind of substantial scale have a website or something like that. So maintaining that website, if you have inventory on that website or staying up to date, that's a big one. Getting burnt out with dealing with customers.
Yeah.
That's 100% an easy thing to do. Especially when you're getting bombarded with questions and
can I have 47 more pictures?
Yeah, and I will give a massive shout out to Brian Barczyk and his team over at BHB, because he basically has all of his staff answer any question from anybody that ever comes in.
Yeah.
And
that's tough, man.
that's
That'll take your whole day.
That's huge. And he's even said he's like 90% of the calls that we get about, having somebody's got a question about their animal or whatever is an animal they bought from somebody else.
Yep.
And that, that's why a lot of people don't do it, because it's like, man, I'm not, my time is money, or my time is valuable, and, I'm not necessarily getting anything out of this. However, I think the other way to think about that is like, well, if I help this person out, perhaps they'll become a customer of mine in the future, or they'll send somebody to me like, oh yeah, they helped me out with so-and-so, like they're really great. It's a massive undertaking.
Yeah, Nerd, we field a lot of phone calls of people who are like, hey, I didn't buy this thing from you, but can you tell me how to deal with this or correct this or treat this? And it's like, oh, I mean, we'll help you, but man, you could have saved yourself a lot of hassle by just buying from us, I guess.
Yeah. No, and it's real. And or you get the people Kevin was telling me about, somebody who kept calling and kept calling and kept calling. And they had some question about a carpet python or something like that. And Kevin was like, oh, well, we've got some videos up about this, similar kind of thing and whatever. And she's like, yeah. But this is the problem. And, it's like, yeah, I've made
it's in the video.
Like, it's in this video. Like, check it out, because we go in depth and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, that's why I'm calling you. And it's like, no, but you're missing the point. I'm trying to politely tell you, I don't have the time for this, but I have offered you a resource.
Yeah. I think that some people are just starving for that connection, that one-on-one interaction.
For sure.
Especially with COVID, people are like, I haven't talked to a living human in days besides my work. And it's like, yeah, well, we are at our work right now.
Yeah.
So I don't have time. I literally was on the phone with someone for 3 hours. Actually, it was more than 3 hours. I don't want to talk about how long it was, but it was more than 3 hours, because they were like, I just need to ask you questions about this and talk about this and blah, blah. And I was like, hey, I got it. And they would just keep talking again. And I'm like,
I have to go now.
It was past the end of my shift when I hung up with them. Yeah, it was something else. There's people out there who are just like, I need to talk to someone about this. And it's like, we've got all these videos that'll answer all of the questions that you're asking me right now. And they're like, no, I want you to tell it to me. And it's like, I can't spoon feed every person. I can't do it. Yeah, but we have an automated spooning system over here that has got YouTube. Yeah, YouTube, and it just gives you the spoon and just hands it right to you. All you have to do is open your mouth. That's all you got to do. Open your eyes and your ears and just listen, and we will spoon it directly into your mouth. It won't be me doing it, but it'll be me. Okay?
Yeah.
You close your eyes, it's the same.
That's actually wonderful. This automatic spoon feeding machine.
Yeah.
Called YouTube.
Pretty much.
That's actually freaking wonderful.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
People gotta understand. It's and I don't always have time to answer every question. Like, I get a lot of questions on my personal Instagram about stuff that's going on at Nerd, and I'm like, can you message me when I'm on the clock right now? Because I'm just trying to decompress at the moment.
Yeah, no, exactly. There are sometimes, again, you just have to sometimes turn people away, or at least tell them like, hey, I'll get back to you tomorrow. Or, hey, like, not necessarily be like, get out of here, get lost. But, just be like, hey, you know what? I'll answer your question tomorrow. Or like, give me until tomorrow or whatever, or literally just leave it unread until the next day, especially if it's something later in the day, like you're trying to, especially if, you are the breeder, the person, you're doing it from home, or whatever. People will call you in the middle of dinner, or send you emails in the middle of dinner, and, because there's a business hours, or it says these are your business hours. But like, there has to be that understanding of like, there you have a life. And especially if, you aren't a large scale breeding facility like a Nerd or a BHB, where there's a bunch of staff and there's people who are dedicated to answering the phones and answering emails. It's this one person, maybe a couple, and they've got to work with the snakes, they've got to process the sales, they've got to pack the shipments, they've got to do all these different things on top of answering questions and doing all that other stuff. So sometimes you just need to step back, maybe not respond to somebody right away, or just be like, hey, you know what? I just stepped away. I can get that info for you tomorrow.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just got to do that.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And anybody who thinks that's not okay is they can just go
Selfish
somewhere
ass.
else.
Like,
Yeah, they can just go somewhere else. And never feel bad for that. And if somebody's like, well, they told me they didn't have time to help me and blah 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 blah. Okay. Well, yeah, I was trying to sit down and have dinner with my family.
the people who care about me every day.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I need to put the people who are with me every day of my life, loving me and supporting me and cheering me on. I need to put them on the burner so I can talk to you who didn't buy something from me, who wasn't planning on buying anything from me and just wanted my help for free.
Yeah.
Sorry guys. Sometimes I gotta
say no. Yeah. Sometimes you gotta say no.
Yeah.
So do you guys deal with coworkers asking you questions you feel they should know the answer to? Well, I mean, so here's the thing. Yes.
Yeah.
But sometimes, they when we hire people either in the pet store or at Nerd, we don't expect them to know everything.
No, it's very rare that I find someone who, I'm not going to toot my own horn, but it's not often that I find people who know as much as I do when it comes to reptiles. It just doesn't happen because I've been focusing on this since I was 4 years old or something, and like reading every resource that I could get and talking to every person that I could. So it's very rare. I mean, there's some people who are focused on one thing and they can kind of meet me at that point, or maybe know more than me at that one particular thing. But when it comes to the variety of things that I work with, it's not often that I find people, if we've got someone who's working with reticulated pythons and then I have them go grab something and do something with monitors, most of the time it's like, whoa, that's alien. I've never done that before. Where, I feel like, just do this thing like this or like that. And it's just like second nature to me. But you can't expect everyone to know that or to be, comfortable with that. So it's not necessarily that I expect them to know things. If it's in their domain of things that they work with, I usually expect them to know.
Oh yeah, 100%.
If it's outside of that realm, I am usually pretty lenient with people because I know what it's like to learn, and I'm still learning things.
Yeah, and it's also not like we have 5 species of animals. We have so many different species of animals.
I would love to.
Ridiculous.
I'm gonna have to go through on one of my days off and just count how many different species we work
that'll
with.
be a number.
Yeah.
But I mean, so it's kind of inevitable. And everybody likes different things.
Yeah.
Which I think is awesome. It would be a little, I don't know if it would be boring, but it would be a little maybe less interesting if everybody liked the exact same thing and we were just showing each other the exact same thing over and over and over. It's like, did you see this picture? Yeah, I saw it like 2 hours ago, dude. Like, yeah, it's a dope snake, but yeah, I already saw it. But to have somebody come up, and show you, like, I think about like Jake, who like really loves all the crazy weird colubrids and stuff like that. It's like, oh my god, dude, like take a look at this, and you're like, dude, that's badass.
I like when I get to show him stuff that he hasn't seen yet. I'm like,
yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. But I mean, that's just part of it. And if you have a substantial enough collection where you're having somebody help you out, or maybe you have a staff member or somebody that you're paying, I mean, part of working with people, especially if you have had the experience, is that kind of element of mentorship.
Yes.
And and taking that time to do that, which you don't want to get burnt out on.
Yeah.
Because education is, I think, education is another thing you can get burnt out on, especially if you are consistently in that zone of like not necessarily going to do educational programs, but like talking with people about things, going to expos, answering the same questions over and over and over and over and over again for every individual person. It's like, man, I just want an FAQ sheet I can just slap on my table. Can I go have a bearded dragon and a leopard gecko? No.
I mean, you can, but you'll have a fat bearded dragon and no leopard gecko.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I feel like that sort of thing with COVID and everything, people have definitely not felt that as much. But doing expos, man, when you pack up every couple weeks and you're doing an expo and answering the same, is he eating live or frozen thawed? Is he friendly? Do you have the exact moment that his eyeballs opened outside of the egg? Can you tell me that, please?
How
Dealing-
long was its egg tooth?
Yeah, when you deal with those questions every single day, man, it gets old. Or how many grams is this snake right here? I'm like, man, I haven't weighed a snake in
Yeah.
so long. I don't
Yeah.
know, man. It's eating adult mice. That's how many grams it is.
Yeah. It's an appropriate weight.
Yeah.
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 Oh my gosh.
Mm.
Well,
Those are the things that burn me out, man. I get someone who's like, I need to know the exact moment that it hatched out, how many grams it is, and then approximately its total length. And I'm like, oh man, it's eating adult mice. That's how long. That's how big it is.
yeah. And then Rob's like, wait, what are you talking about? And they're like, oh, my berm.
No.
Ah! Oh my gosh. Okay. So Rob,
Yes. It's about that time.
it's about that time. So
This has been Reptile Talk.
what has you excited about reptiles, Rob?
Ooh, right now, what in the realm of reptiles has got me excited?
Usually he does this to me.
I do this to you. The thing right now that's got me super excited, like in this particular moment, is that tomorrow I'm actually going to be setting up that enclosure that I've been waiting the last couple of weeks to set up for
Yes.
upgrade one of my scrub pythons. My Highland scrub is going to get it a 3-foot enclosure right now, so I'm pretty excited to do that tomorrow, and then set up another rack so I can start moving some of my babies up from their hatchling rack into the next size up. I'm pretty excited about that. And then in the greater realm of reptiles, I'm planning on doing a field herping trip in the next couple of months. I don't want to talk too much about it, but I'm super pumped.
Yes.
And I'm sure there'll be stories.
I cannot wait to hear these stories, especially because I know the people. So I'm very excited for that.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
So Jeremy, what in the realm of reptiles has you excited right now?
A lot of things.
Everything.
No, I am
US
actually.
Oh, hold on.
Yes.
US Arc. I'm pumped about US Arc. They're almost at 5,000 Instagram followers when they just made it the other week, like when we were talking about two weeks ago.
Yeah, something like that.
So make sure that you're following USARC_official on Instagram as they're shouting out updates of the laws that are going on right now. I'm super pumped. That's got me excited that USARC is on Instagram now, where we can share more information and resources that comes to, the crazy legislation that's going on right now. I'm excited about that. Sorry.
No, that's cool. I'll piggyback off of that and say, if anybody saw the last piece of legislation that popped up with Eureka, California, that was all of these terrible impositions on how many animals you can have, the size of the animals that were regulated, all this stuff. So they had their hearing or their open comments or whatever, and things got amended for the better.
Yes,
which is actually wonderful. I shared it on my Facebook earlier today. But now there's no longer a limit on the number of animals you can keep. There's no size limit on snakes, which is great.
And the size limit
on lizards went from 3 feet to 8 feet, which is great.
Basically, just croc monitors and Komodo dragons.
Yeah, essentially so. And I think there were a couple of other things, but like that's huge.
Yep.
That really is huge. Because again, I feel like a lot of us are not necessarily opposed to regulating maybe species that not everybody should have access to, just all willy-nilly, but to just literally go all out and be like, no, you can't keep that, bro. Like, that doesn't work. That's not awesome. So I am excited about USARC. I'm excited to see a little bit of positive movement on some bit of legislation that's going on. So I'm very excited about that. I'm also very excited that my army of Amazon tree boas is getting a nice little addition.
It's getting a
little muscle
added to it.
A little bit of muscle.
I'm excited for that too because I want some of those in the future.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked. Yeah, I've got some cool stuff. I'll have to post some pictures.
Ooh. All right, Jeremy, if people want to find out more about you, where are they going to go?
Right here.
In your speakers.
Yeah, no. You can check me out on Instagram, Facebook, here on YouTube, at Brassman Reptiles. You can check me out on Twitter at Brassman Rep. And of course, Reptile Talk. Reptile.talk on Instagram.
There we go.
And available everywhere. How about you, Rob?
If you want to find out more about me, check me out on Instagram at Rob is Creeping It Real. on Twitter at RobIsCreeping. And that's pretty much it. Boom.
Bam.
So we will see you guys next week with another episode of Reptile Talk.
Episode 52.
Boom. 1 year.
1 year of Reptile Talk.
Reptile Talk.
Woo!
We're going to be in the building.
That's it.
We'll see you guys next time.
See you guys.